Joining me now is Democratic Congressman and 2021 impeachment manager Ted Lieu of California, and Stuart Stevens, chief strategist of Mitt Romney's 2012 campaign and senior advisor to the Lincoln Project. And Congressman Lieu, I have to start with you on this because you're, sitting opposite members of the House of Representatives who are completely enthralled to this person who faces potential criminal liabilities, who faces huge financial liabilities, who can't help them in terms of fundraising via Facebook or messaging via Twitter. When you talk with Republicans, what is it about him that's so enthralling that he can get away with trying to lynch Mike Pence and Mike Pence still takes the knee?
We are watching the radicalization of the Republican Party in real time. And specifically on Mike Pence, I just have to say that for most normal people, if one of my work colleagues incited a bunch of people to try and kill me, I wouldn't talk to them anymore. I would try to get that person prosecuted. So I don't even understand why Mike Pence is even talking to the former president. He should be trying to put this person into prison or some sort of asylum. So it is something that's very disturbing to me. We're really watching members of the Republican Party just enter a cult-like state, and it's very hard to watch just as an American to see one major political party deteriorate the way it is.
And Stuart, cult is really the only term when you enter a cult, you have to renounce your own family. George P. Bush has done it. You've seen Ted Cruz essentially excuse vicious attacks on his own wife and mother. You basically have to be willing to cut your own family, and they're doing it. But in the case of Mike Pence, they tried to kill him. Can you explain why he needs nothing from Trump? Why is he still taking the knee?
Well, first, I want to take this opportunity to thank the congressman who, at another time, I might have opposed, but he has been a real champion standing up for democracy, and it means so much more than any other political differences we might have had. So thank you, Congressman. I think the dirty little secret here is that Donald Trump is what the Republican Party wants. And what he has tapped into is a obviously deep-seated autocratic desire on the Republican Party. And I even think a cult is not the way to look at it, because you can deprogram people from a cult. But I don't know how you deprogram people from autocracy and racism. And I think that he has emerged as a white grievance party's leader. And, one of the lessons here, I think, is that leaders matter. We saw that in the 1930s. Why didn't America become fascist? Probably because Roosevelt was president and not, say, Lindbergh or Henry. So I think that the truth here is very dark and disturbing, and I think the outcome of this is very much in doubt.
No, you're absolutely right. Let me play for you Ron Johnson, because I think he kind of demonstrates what it looks like when you've gone all the way over. Here's Ron Johnson. Essentially, he cannot bring himself to give Trump any responsibility for what happened on January 6th. Here he is.
Why are you not aggressively looking at what happened that day from the perspective of President Trump's role?
Because we've had an impeachment trial.
But you don't think he bears any responsibility?
Listen, I think our hyper-partisan politics is driving all of this. Go back to the number of articles of impeachment against President Trump. Go back to the summer riots where you had, for example, Vice President Harris encouraging people to donate to a fund to bail these rioters out so they can riot again. Again, there's plenty of societal blame to go around.
And Congressman Lieu, you were impeachment manager. He's blaming impeachment. He's blaming Speaker Pelosi. Everyone else is responsible but Trump. In a sense, do you think it would make more sense at this point, given that that's where the Republican Party is? And I think Stuart is absolutely right. Wouldn't it just be easier for the speaker to just impanel a blue ribbon commission, something like a sort of a House version of the Watergate Commission, and just be on with getting this investigation into January 6th going, and just forget the Republicans and just do it, just have the Democrats do it?
The Republicans cannot stop the full truth from coming out. So the speaker is either going to have a select committee or empower the standing congressional committees to look at January 6th to find out exactly what happened before January 6th, what happened that day, and what the consequences are. So it's going to come out. They can't stop this. It's just the form of what the investigation will look like. And I just want to know something that happened during the impeachment trial. We were in this other room when we weren't presenting, and in this impeachment war room, we had big screens on. And so, of course, we had MSNBC as well as CNN and Fox. And there were literally entire portions of the impeachment trial that Fox just did not show, including some very aggressive rioters beating up police officers that Fox was just playing some other guests just talking. So if you're just watching Fox News, you could come away with a very different view of what happened on January 6th.
Well, and that's the challenge, right, Stuart, is that you also do have people who live in a completely different information universe where they still want to believe that what happened on January 6th didn't happen or it happened in a different way. But I want to roll back just a little bit because I do still believe that a lot of this started before Trump, and the Tea Party was one signal of what we saw coming. And I remember Alan West, because I was in Florida at the time. This is somebody who got, sort of drummed out of the military because he did a fake execution against a mock execution against an Iraqi policeman, went back, ran for Congress, and then did a lot of talk about getting your bayonets against President Obama. During his campaign for the House, he was a Tea Party guy, and he said, if you're here to stand up, to get your musket, to fetch your bayonet, and to charge into the ranks, you are my brother and sister in this fight. You need to leave here understanding one simple word. That word is bayonet. He moved to Texas after he finally got drummed out of Congress in Florida. He spoke at the QAnon convention, and now he's resigning as the chairman of the Texas Republican Party, potentially to run against Republican Governor Greg Abbott in Texas. So it's not just Trump, Stuart. There's a whole generation of them. And I don't know how the Republican Party ever changes back to anything like normal.
I think the only way to save the Republican Party is to burn the current Republican Party to the ground. You can't negotiate with these people. You cannot somehow meet them at a common ground. How do you meet someone common ground who wears a Camp Auschwitz sweatshirt and attacks the Capitol of the United States to try to hang the Vice President of the United States and overturn an election? These are people you have to challenge, you have to defeat them. And I think that what troubles me the most here is that we might slip into some sense that this is a normal time. There's a great need for normalcy now, but it's not a normal time. We've never had, since at least 1860, a major political party in the United States of America that is a major anti-democratic force. And that is what happened to the party I used to work in.
Yeah, it's hard to even imagine the party that you worked in, or Mitt Romney, ever being a viable candidate for anything, right? For president again. You're right, it is completely different. So there is still regular business going on, which I still find a little bit weird. Congressman Lieu, you are on the Judiciary Committee. One of the sort of regular order sort of thing that's happening that, Trump was able to delay subpoenas back when he was president. Now we have Don McGahn, who's going to finally testify. He's going to come through, and this is really going all the way back during impeachment. It took nearly 2 years to secure his testimony, or testify. Sorry, he testified today, and it took more than 2 years to make it happen. Are we just going to be sort of cleaning up old business in the House? What do you think came out of that testimony? And at this point, is there any point to doing anything other than focusing on what happened on January 6th and figuring out how to, I don't know, dethrone this current Republican Party?
It's ridiculous that it takes over 2 years to get a witness in to testify, which shows we had to reform the congressional subpoena process. I've introduced legislation that would allow the House to execute our power of inherent contempt, which is that we could fine witnesses up to $100,000 for disobeying congressional subpoenas. That doesn't even need a vote of the Senate. The House could simply pass it by majority vote, and hopefully we can get that done. I also note that McGahn, in this testimony, I've been briefed by Judiciary staff. He repeatedly says how the former president ignored his advice, including his advice to not try to shut down the Mueller investigation. So when that official transcript comes out, I think you're going to see that the former president basically did whatever was said in the Mueller report, plus additional confirmation of additional things that the former president did that either violated the rule of law or comes very close to violating the rule of law. And I hope the Department of Justice looks at that official transcript closely. And let me also say thank you, Stuart, for standing for democracy right now. We all appreciate that.
I will second that to both of you gentlemen. Thank you both for standing up for democracy. You've both been vital. And for some of us, just to our sanity to know that people are seeing what we're seeing. Congressman Ted Lieu, Stuart Stevens, thank you both very much. And up next on the Reid Out, the unholy alliance that would watch American democracy burn to the ground instead of using the power in their hands